have answers to all your questions.
You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game, and we will be doing lots of politics and public policy here. Remember, it's like Rahm Emanuel once said, you know, at a press conference, he said, does anybody have some questions for my answers, okay? So that's kind of what I would say here. Do I have, Ray Colon, our guest, Alderman Ray Colon, has the answers. The question is, do I have the right questions for his answers, right, Ray?
If not, I'll ask you the right answers, and you can give me whatever question you want.
Alderman Colon has been, what, an alderman for 10 years now?
10 years.
10th year?
Yes.
Okay. And you represent the 35th Ward, right?
35th Ward.
Tell us a little, that includes Avondale, that includes Albany Park, that includes Hermosa.
Well,
or portions of those areas.
Right. Well,
Okay.
you know, we're in transition, right, with the remap. So historically, for the past 10 years, I've represented Logan Square, Humboldt Park, Avondale, and Irving Park. But now, under the remap, I'm losing part of Logan Square and all of Humboldt Park, but I'm picking up Hermosa, and I'm picking up Albany Park.
Okay. Well, people, you know, okay, that's your area you represent, and that's important, and we'll come back to that. But in a sense, you are a Chicago City Councilman. Not in a sense, you are. In a sense, you vote on things that affect all of Chicago, right?
Absolutely.
Sometimes one area than another. So we're taping the show on April 7th, and a lot of people are thinking, what's in the news? One thing that's in the news are these, what do we call them, flash mobs?
Yes.
You understand flash mobs?
I do understand
What is a
flash
flash
mobs.
mob?
I mean, you know, it's when a group of people get together and just get unruly and use their
And where have they been doing that when they do that? Not just randomly in the city of Chicago?
Well,
right?
they've been doing it in public transportation. They've been doing it downtown. I mean, it's
Downtown, like on Michigan Avenue?
Yes.
Rahm doesn't like it so much. The Magnificent Mile is why people and tourists, one of the reasons why they come to Chicago, right? So it's not just people coming from the Chicago metro area to come down. They come down and there's this flash mob going on, and people are going to get tussled and harassed and maybe beat up.
And it's a different form of gangbanging in a way. It's, you know, you're getting together to do something that you would never do on your own, and you're using the strength in numbers to be unruly and to do things and think that you can get away with doing things.
So what do we do? You're in the city council. What should be the policy? How do we remedy that?
I mean, you know, it has to be approached no different than we approach our gang problems in our neighborhoods, and that is, you know, identify, you know, young people that are perpetrating these crimes, and you know, start to do a database and collect information on them, because you know, these are things that happen randomly. So unlike you know, a street corner where you're monitoring you know, drug sales and things like that, this is something that you never actually know where they're going to be and when it's going to happen.
So you need sort of rapid deployment. You know, like politicians have, when you're running for office, you would know something about this if you got a close race. Have you had any close races?
Every race is close for me.
Yeah. And so you get somebody, you know, says something nasty about Ray Colon. They have, if it could happen, I'm not saying there is anything nasty to be said about you, but if you're in the race, what do you have to have if you've got a political team? You have to have what they call a rapid response, right?
Yeah, some damage control.
Right, so the same thing, the police have to be nimble in the city of Chicago. The police chief, McCarthy, is that his name?
That's his name.
Okay, Rahm Emanuel, he's the mayor of the city council. You folks have to be nimble, so if something starts happening, and you don't know where it could be. One time it's on Michigan Avenue, the Magnificent Mile. Sometimes this happened sort of, I think, similar a few months ago in Ford City, right?
Right.
Yeah, there was some kind of an event there, somebody was speaking, or there was a music event, and then they got little action going on. So it can happen. The point is, if it happens, how do you get a rapid response? That's what I was looking for. How do you get a rapid response by the police, by the city, to deal with this and snuff it out, if you can use that word, stop that before it becomes a problem? What do you do?
Well, you know, you have to make people aware of what's going on, and if people begin to see the signs, if they see people that are gathered together and there's certain things, you know, they need to call. And we tell residents that on the local level, you know, we've got to educate local businesses and people on the street. If they see, you know, a group of people that look like something's about to escalate, they need to call and let people know where that's taking place.
People have to get involved. The police need the help. The police can do a lot of things, but they need the help of the community. But it works both ways. The police have to get out there, get out of those cars. They have to get on the beat. They have to make friends in the community so people trust them, so that they really believe they're there to protect and serve and help them. And if that happens, if they trust them, they will call. They will contact them. They'll say, here's what I hear. Here's what's going on, right?
Absolutely. There has to be engagement on both sides. Okay. I mean, police need the intelligence from people on the street and vice versa. I mean, people need to be able to communicate with their local officers.
One thing we're doing today on April 7th, Rahm has been mayor for, now is it going on 2 years?
Yes.
2 years, really? I was going to say 18 months, but 2 years.
Next month it'll be 2 years.
Right. So, Alderman Ray Colon, you know Rahm, right?
I do.
Is he a buddy of yours? You guys go out drinking, sort of?
No, never.
Have you ever talked with him?
I've talked with him, yeah.
Like informally, like this? Like, Rahm, how's it going, man?
Not as often as I'd probably like to, but yeah, we have talked and
How do you end up talking with him? Give us some idea. Over the last 2 years, how often have you spoken with the mayor?
he's been out into my ward a lot.
He
I
has,
mean,
okay.
he
That's
goes
the
there.
35th ward.
The 35th ward. We've had a lot of new businesses opening in recent years, so
And he comes out there for the
he
new
comes
bit.
out on his
He
own.
cuts those old ribbons?
He comes out on his own. He comes out to our neighborhood festivals. He comes out to performances and things like that. So he's pretty much on the street. He does get around, and I've actually run into him in restaurants and different places.
So what do you think?
About?
Rahm, you like him?
You know,
Did
I
you
do.
support him when he was running for mayor?
I did not support him
Did
when
you-
he was
did
running.
you support
I was
Miguel del
supporting
Valle?
Miguel del Valle.
Yeah, okay.
I was supporting Miguel del Valle. And Miguel del Valle, in many ways, has been a mentor for me, both as a nonprofit person and as an elected official. So,
When you say as a nonprofit person, what do you mean?
well, he had a history in Association House and working nonprofits, and my background has been
Before he became a state senator?
before I became an elected official.
And then after he became an elected official, then he was a city clerk. Well, after a state senator, right?
Correct.
And then he left that position, and now he's what, in the private sector?
I'm not sure what he's doing.
He's
I think he is
retired?
in the private. I think he's retired. But that being
So you
said,
supported DeValier, but now do you support the mayor? You think he would he have your support if he was running again in 2 years?
yes, he
He
would.
now.
Yeah.
He's earned your respect and your support.
He's earned my respect, and I've always respected him. But we make our choices for whatever different reasons, who we're going to support at what different time. But I would say that Rahm has been a progressive mayor, and he's had major issues that he's had to confront. There are things that have been part of our structural fabric for a long time, and so I think he's looking at trying to address some of these things instead of kicking the can down the road. And with that is going to be a lot of opposition, and a lot of criticism. So,
What were the three major things, as you recall, that he ran on? Rahm Emanuel, when he was running for mayor, somewhat of a close race. He had Gary Chico, who was competitive. Gary raised $3 million. Rahm raised $12 million. So 12 million, 3 million. I would say Rahm was favored, right? 4-1, 12 million to 3 million. And but he had competition. They had debates. They had discussions. Do you remember what was Rahm saying were the three major
I don't
issues he was
remember,
running on?
but I think on
Give
the
it your best
forefront,
shot.
I
Give
think
it your best
my
shot.
best shot would be that the education was number one, and then it was a system that needed to be fixed, and something that we can't hold off on anymore, and
We'll
need
come back
to
to that.
work
What was
on.
number two, as you see? City
you know,
finances, maybe?
I think reforming our
safety,
city.
maybe?
I think
Safety?
reforming. Public
Crime?
safety is always on somebody's list, but I do think that structurally fixing our finances for the city, I think, has always been a big.
Those three: education, crime, and city finances. Big three.
Yeah. Although
Now-
ethics is part of that whole package
And
as
ethics.
well.
Well, let's take education. What would you give the guy? An A, B, C, D, F? Give him a grade. A, B, C, D, F. Just like we grade first graders, let's grade Rahm.
I would say a B.
A B?
Yeah, I think that he's had to confront some really difficult choices, both with our teacher strike and now with these school closings. It's not an easy task as far as trying to negotiate and trying to actually make some change and trying to force the card a little bit.
And is he doing that in 2 years? What change has Rahm Emanuel brought about in 2 years?
Well, I think that the whole teacher strike, I saw that coming even before he was sworn into office. I think that as soon as he became a contender in this race, and what he was saying on the campaign trail with regards to education and the reforms that need to be made, extending the school day, things of that nature, he put a face to the enemy of organized labor when it comes to the teachers movement, and I think it made it easier for folks to build some momentum to try to fight it and
To try to fight what?
well, just to try to fight some of the changes, some of the reforms that he's looking at making, whether it is extending the local school day or now with the whole utilization question and consolidating our resources so that we can provide a better quality for the
So
children
you're
that are
saying
here.
he's done a good job in articulating some major things that he wants to fight for and push for.
I believe so.
So longer school day would be one.
I believe so.
Better utilization would be another, right?
I believe
What
so.
else? What else is
We're
he
talking
pushing
about
for?
education. I just think as far as giving the resources and tools that they need and pushing for performance. I think the other thing is measuring performance and making sure that more than 60% of our students are graduating.
More than how much?
60%.
Oh, because right now you think it's about 60%?
Well, that's what I was told at the hearing. We had hearings
Okay.
last week on the school closings, and I asked that question of CPS,
And you
they
were told
said
60%?
they were told our graduation rate was 60%, but also the teachers' performance, 75% were functioning at superior or excellent.
That's
So,
what they said? 75% of the teachers
Correct.
do you think that's right?
well, if that was right, then we'd have a higher graduation rate.
Well, here's another
But
one.
I like to tie things to performance.
Now, I asked them, Barbara Bird Bennett, the CEO of CPS, about something that Robin Staines mentioned. You know Robin? She's the head of this organization called Advanced Illinois.
I
It's a
don't.
reform organization.
I don't.
So Robin was on this show, and it was hard to get it really nailed down, but I was trying to find out how many of the kids read at grade level, and specifically I was focusing on minorities, starting with blacks. And so he said, how many black fourth graders in the Chicago public schools read at grade level, taking just a specific grade, may be representative, may not. You know what she said? In
What's
terms
that?
of 20%. That means that 80% of the black kids in the fourth grade read below grade level, according to Robin Staines. Now I'm extrapolating a little bit, and we had to, make some. I could be here all day if I put all the qualifications in. But I think that's a pretty reasonable statistic, and I ran it by a few months ago when the closings were just starting. Barbara Bird Bennett at a press conference, she said, "Yeah, that kind of sounds right." And I'm thinking, what do you think of that statistic? Number one, do you have an idea? Maybe you do. How many Hispanics in the fourth grade at CPS do you think read at grade level?
Yeah, I don't have that number in my back pocket, but I
Well,
do know that
give me your best guess.
it has to
If
be.
it's 20% blacks, what do you think it is for them?
It has to be less. I mean,
You think Hispanics are underperforming blacks?
I think that it has to be less. I mean, it's.
Well, let's assume
and-
it is. What
and-
do you do about it then?
Well, the
I mean,
whole.
can we live with that kind of situation where
No, but-
20% of the minorities, black and Hispanics, read at grade level and 80% don't? Can we really live with that?
Well, considering that the majority of the school system is black and Hispanic,
85%, right?
we can't.
It means the whole system isn't performing. 20% of the kids were saying, 25% of the kids in CPS in fourth grade read at grade level?
Yeah, that's not acceptable.
80%?
That's not
Why
acceptable.
why doesn't Rahm talk about that? He's the mayor. Why are we even talking about school closings? Why is that taking priority over the fact that fewer than 1 out of 5 kids, minority kids in CPS, read at grade level?
Yeah, I think those things are connected. I mean,
You think they are?
I think they're
Okay.
connected. We have to maximize our resources right now, and I think that there are schools. First of all, it's not popular for elected officials to say, "Oh, I'm going to support the closing of this school." I mean, the public, our immediate constituents, we get a lot of pressure to fight to make sure that these schools stay open. And I had one that was threatened with the closing, but it's not going to
It's not gonna
close.
be closed,
But it's not going to be closed.
But
And
your
there's a lot.
constituents weren't happy, is what you're saying.
Well, I'm saying that there was a movement to try to make sure that those schools stayed open. But, speaking privately with some of my colleagues, some of them would be in agreement that these schools need to close. They just don't
By
feel
your colleagues, you mean your fellow
aldermen
Yeah.
who do have school closings within their
And why
their
do they
districts.
need to be closed, according to you and your colleagues?
Because they're underperforming and because they're empty. And
both things.
Both
They're
things.
underperforming and they're empty.
And the whole question of making sure that there's a higher level of safety and quality if the school is being well attended, and if the resources are there. I think with this whole closing plan, what we have to look out for and make sure is that the resources for these welcoming schools are in place. That day one, when these children are starting school, that they are having laptops in front of them, that they are having the books that they need, that they are having the air conditioning and the environment that is welcoming.
So there's at least an improvement, because they would say people seem to be, well, the teachers union is highlighting, and there seem to be a number of parents who agree, Their concern about the closing of the school is that their kids are going to have to go to another school further away. They might have to cross gang lines, so to speak. Their kids are risking their safety running through turf that other gangs control that don't like to see non-gang members coming through. And what's your response?
Well,
what's your response
we asked that
as
question.
an alderman? What do you say to those parents if they say what I just
We
said?
asked that question to CPS, and their response was that none of the welcoming schools are more than an additional 2 blocks.
Really?
So
Not more than 2 blocks?
not more than 2 blocks, any of the welcoming schools. So, and in any case where it's more than that they'd be willing to provide transportation. So, it appears to me that these 50 or so schools that have been identified, there's been some planning that's going about. But I wouldn't just leave it to CPS to plan on how my kid's going to get to school safely and back.
Who would you rely on to do that?
Well, I would rely on myself and the
Yourself
community
as an alderman,
as a parent.
As a parent.
I mean,
it's down to the parent, is what you're saying.
Well, it can't all be on one person. I can't, as a parent, while I appreciate the fact that that CPS might be providing a walking school bus or even a regular school bus, it's up to me to make sure that my child is getting to school safely, whether that means walking with a sibling or a neighbor to school. But I think that that's something that we assume responsibility. I'm a product of Chicago Public Schools, and so is my daughter. And I was mentioning to you earlier, she ended up graduating from University of Chicago and the School of the Art Institute. But you know what?
Pretty good. Yeah, you're holding a mug there that says Booth School of Business. I've got a University of Chicago.
There you
mug.
go.
So
There
we
you
have
go.
some affinity
Yeah.
or affection, seriously, for the University of Chicago. Your daughter went there.
Right.
It's one of the best schools in the country.
Right. But it involves.
How did she get there? She got there from Chicago Public School, right?
She got there from Chicago Public School. She
So
graduated from Whitney Young.
And that was a magnet school.
Yes.
So in a sense, though, your daughter went to a select school based on her abilities, her performance on tests. She was able to get into Whitney Young, right?
She was.
And a lot of that's really just how the kids are doing and how they do on tests, how they do on grades. They're competing with other kids. More people want to go there than there are spots. And it's called a magnet school, but it's really, why do they call it a magnet school? Let me ask you that.
It's a specialized school where children who have been identified or who test well, who've performed well, end up going there. But I gotta say, and just rewinding back to, I think what some of the goals are right now with public schools and what my daughter had is that she had a very strong early childhood education. She went to preschool program. She went to Montessori. She was involved in different programs before her first day of school. So that
she went to Montessori. And where else did she go?
And she went to a private preschool.
Preschool. So prior to going to the Chicago Public Schools, she went to private preschools, which in your view helped her get a leg up.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You as a parent were concerned, but there's only so much you can do. You and your spouse perhaps wanted to see that she got educated before she started the Chicago Public Schools.
Right, but then even after you start in the school, that you're helping to navigate. What do
you do to help navigate?
Well, you find out which are the good teachers. That who's doing good. Whose class do you want your kid to be in, and you push for that.
You're an involved parent.
I was. She's 27 years old.
But you were
now.
an involved parent.
I was.
I'm saying, but the point is, one is an involved parent. We want people to be involved. Rahm Emanuel talks about this a lot. He says, we can do certain things, we being the Chicago Public Schools, the City Council, but you folks, parents, have to get involved too. But sometimes the schools aren't there. They're just not performing. And that's why the idea comes up, do we need more charter schools? Do we need more, not more, we don't have school vouchers. Do we need to give individuals a choice? Because you've said, okay, these parents now, or their school is closing, and you're saying the CPS is telling them nobody's going to have to walk or go more than 2 blocks, and if it is more than 2 blocks, well, then we'll provide transportation, right? But better yet, what if they could if you could say to these people, we're closing your school, and on average, do you know how much we spend on the public schools? On average?
I
In
don't.
Chicago? Well, it's about a $6 billion budget. You know that? It's about a $6 billion budget. A little less lately, was a little more, and there are about 400,000 students, I think. I think about 350,000 students in the traditional schools, public schools, and 50,000 or so in charter schools. So about 400,000 students into $6 billion gives you an average of about $15,000 per kid per year. That's $15,000 per kid per year. I'm not saying on every kid we're doing, but that's the average. Maybe if we're spending more on some, we're spending less on others, or vice versa. Now, could we say to these people, if the average is 15,000, we're closing your school, here's $15,000, take it and go to the school of your choice. If you want to go to the so-called welcoming school, the school we've assigned you to, you can go there. But if this is a new private school that opens up, and maybe it's a little closer, maybe a little safer, maybe a little more emphasis on reading, and you want to spend your $15,000 voucher there, do it. Would you sign on to that kind of a program?
You know, I don't know if there's the political will in Chicago right now for that type of a program.
No, but I'm asking you, Alderman Ray Colon, would you like to be a leader? Would you, I'm not saying you could convince all the other council members. I'm not saying you could convince the state legislature. There are lots of hurdles to accomplish this, but just conceptually, just between us guys, you know?
Between us guys.
Just between
and
us
the
guys.
rest of the world.
Just between us guys.
You know,
would you like to see that happen?
I think that educational options, whether it's charter, whether it's voucher, need to be explored. And if there's, you know, that's not to say that the traditional schools should not get the investment that they need. And I know that there's a big argument out there, and some people are blaming these school closings on charters, that the charters have taken resources away. I don't think that the numbers you said are significant enough to say that they've taken those resources away. And if a charter is
So
not
you don't
performing,
agree, the charters haven't taken things away.
you know, they've diverted students, but they are
But
not the
because
they are not the
students
reason.
want to go. The students want to leave. They didn't divert the students. The parents said, I want my kid to have a chance at a better school. I want my kid to go to this charter school. These kids didn't, it wasn't like there was a bolt of lightning that came down.
No,
When you say the charter schools didn't divert it, the parents who wanted to leave the traditional school and go to the charter school, those parents diverted. That's like saying, you know, if you decide that VW or a Volkswagen or any other car, a Lexus or a Toyota is outperforming Chevy or Ford, foreign cars over domestic cars, you decide that. And you decide to buy a Toyota. Toyota didn't divert it. You diverted it, right? You're the customer. Isn't it the same thing?
Well,
if a parent wants to leave a public school, a traditional public school, because charter schools are public schools too.
correct.
So if a parent wants to leave the traditional public school and go to the charter school of his or her choice, the parent diverted it.
Well, and the parent is going to make a choice to benefit their child, whether
That's
it's a
good
tradition,
thing.
whatever
That's a good
whatever
thing.
type of school.
You made a choice to let your kid go to a magnet school, right?
That's
you
correct.
as a parent.
That's
That's
correct.
a good thing, right?
That's correct.
I mean, maybe it could have been a bad thing if the choice didn't work out, but the choice did. She went to Whitney. She went to the University of Chicago. I haven't met your daughter, but I'd say she's doing pretty well, right?
She's a brilliant kid.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, like a proud, loving father of like Lisa Madigan, you know, daughter of a proud, loving dad, Speaker Mike Madigan. Same thing, right?
Right.
Okay. So, but the point is, you're not quite ready, but you're almost there to charter school vouchers. Am I hearing that right? I mean, you're saying there needs to be some choice, some competition, some innovation. We need to start getting things right here.
We need to get some things right, and we need to challenge the system. And I think that that's what's happening now, and there's a lot of dust flying over it.
So that's education. You're giving Rahm a B on that. Public safety, what do you give him? A, B, C, D, F? Crime.
You know,
I know it's tough, but give him a grade. He's got to get graded.
I'd give him a C.
C.
I'd give him a C.
Because?
Well, just because there has been, I think, us being able to get a handle on the violence out there, and it's not something that came with him. It's something that he inherited, but it's something that is still very prevalent out there. And we've had a lot of challenges in these past 2 years with some very high-profile, violent situations that have come about. And you know, I think that we're doing what we can as far as getting more police bodies on the street, as far as how we're bringing a philosophy of community policing to the entire department and not making it just a program.
In the last 2 years under Rahm? Is murder still a way of life in Chicago? Is murder less a way of life due to Rahm?
I don't think it is. Murder is just a way of life, and I think that it's all relative. If you look at the number of people that have been killed over time, year by year. We're not doing as bad as it, we're getting a lot of high profile, but we're
doing a lot worse than New York in terms of proportion of population. You know that, right?
I do know that, but
we're one of the top ones in the country. If you do it based on proportion, Rahm likes to say we're a leading city. Yeah, Rahm, we're leading in murder. No, but seriously, we are, okay? Now, he would say in the last year, the first quarter of 2013 went down dramatically relative to 2012, but we all know, we've had weather conditions that are favorable to less crime, right?
This is true, but
So we don't know. We may have a trend, but we've got to see what happens when the weather starts getting warmer, as it is now. Cold weather is one of the more important ways to dampen crime in Chicago.
It is, but we can't count on bad weather to keep our people safe. We have to be proactive.
That's why you're only
about
giving
it.
him a C.
Well,
you're saying he's got to do more. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds to me like you're saying he's got to do more.
Yeah, he and we all, because again, it's something that we all
and the
take
city
part
council.
of.
You guys got to have some oversight
It's
here.
something that we all take part in, and on the local level, we also,
We only have a few minutes left.
Okay.
Time goes fast. We're going to continue
Sure
to speak. Continue to speak as the credits roll, but I very much want to thank Alderman Ray Colon. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
We want to have you back, okay?
Oh, please
We're
have me.
starting this series, and we're kicking this off. Public Affairs is going to take an extensive look at Chicago, City of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, the alderman, and Alderman Ray Colon. Really, you're the first. You're numero uno, okay? We're going to be having, we think, Scott Wegas back.
Okay, it's my
We're
neighboring
gonna be having
alderman.
Alderman Joe Moore. We're going to have Alderman Pawar. We'd hope to have Alderman Riley. We'd hope to have Alderman Fioretti. Look, we're just going to go through this. It's our job as journalists to ask these questions, and it's your job to give the answers, right?
I
And
believe
it's the
so.
voters' job to assess and judge. It's not just a matter we want to do this when there's an election. We want to do it year-round because, look, they've got to hold your feet to the fire. I don't do it. The viewers, right?
That's absolutely right.
And you understand that, and you want to be held accountable, right?
Absolutely.
Like Rahm should be. So how is Rahm doing on the city finances? Let's give him a grade there. A, B, C, D, or F?
I think I would give him a B, just because he's addressing the issue, and he's made it publicly stated, and he's put a task force together to review it. He's talking about putting the pause button, on the COLA, and
The city employee pension mess.
yeah,
Is it
and
getting to
trying
be
to
less
get.
a mess by doing that, by putting the pause
I don't
button
think
on
it's
the
I
COLA?
don't think it's less of a mess yet, but
But if he gets that freeze, he needs the cooperation of the state legislature to get some of these modifications done. Is
That's
that right?
correct.
Okay, and he
That's
hasn't gotten
correct.
that yet,
we haven't gotten that yet.
but he's going in the right direction, as you point.
I believe so.
So
I
you're giving
believe
him
so.
C on crime, you're giving him a B on city finances, you're giving him a B on education. Sounds like an average C plus B minus, right?
That's about an average. There's
You're
other
a
things.
tough grader.
There's
You're
other
a tough grader,
There's
Ray.
other things that are important to me that I don't think are part of like those big picture items.
What have we not covered that you think is most important? We only got about a minute left. What do you want to tell the voters here?
Yeah, I think that he's doing really great as far as making our neighborhood more bicycle friendly and walkable. And when it comes to our infrastructure as a city, I think the whole infrastructure trust idea, I would give it A+ for that particular one. So there's areas that I think
What about
he's
employment?
been.
Does he have an effect on employment? Is he helping it?
I think so. I think under his leadership, there's also companies are coming to the city and jobs
Why
are
is
being
the
created.
Chicago rate of unemployment so high? It's higher than elsewhere in the state of Illinois, I think, right?
I think so.
Why
But-
is that? Why are we lagging even our own state?
Well, it's
Not to mention the rest of the country.
it's expensive to do business in Chicago, and I think that it becomes that much more challenging.